Most global catastrophes are measured in loud decibels. Unlike the immediate chaos of an explosion, a nuclear winter approaches gradually carrying. It is not characterized by the seconds of destruction, but by the agonizing years that surely ensue. Climate models predict that even a regional atomic conflict would blast millions of tons into the stratosphere. These particulates rising above the weather patterns would envelop the planet and prevent solar energy from warming. The globe would dim not briefly, but for many harvest cycles. Picture the morning after sirens stop. The sun still climbs, yet its rays feel weak, blocked by a ceiling of soot and debris. Temperatures start plummeting, not merely near the detonation zones, but thousands of miles away from the blast. Agriculture fails in soil that was previously fertile, while the cold comes too soon, refusing to leave. The established schedules of industrial farming dissolve into chaos, as the worth of a town is judged, and is not judged by distance from the blast, but by its capacity to endure deep deprivation. Logistics networks built for efficiency and abundance snap immediately when crops die, and fuel scarcity transforms warmth. Basic warmth becomes a nightly struggle, while clinical supplies that are limited become priceless, beyond any measure. Although nations may attempt to organize, with the magnitude of necessity overwhelms even the strongest federal aid programs, that is when local neighborhoods become the primary and final fortress of defense against the coming cold. A street with established protocols and pooled inventory lists can survive significantly longer than secluded families working. This narrative is not regarding the death of society. It is a guide on what we save. Our species has endured glacial epochs before, and populations have reconstructed after volcanic ash obscured the sun. The distinction now is that we possess the ability to ready ourselves before the sky turns gray. Nuclear winter is not a crisis you solve during the panic. It is an exam of preparation. It is a query we must answer today while the sky remains blue. If the heat vanishes and the continents freeze, will your neighborhood stand tall? As calories become the bedrock of existence today. Above electronics, above pharmaceuticals, just calories, because without energy intake, human biology collapses within a few weeks. Unlike hydration, unlike electricity, nutrition cannot just be stockpiled once and ignored, as it requires constant regeneration cycle after cycle. Even when the climate itself has shifted, freezing obscured horizons would destroy farming soon. Before pantries go bare, solar reduction as minor as 10% could slash harvest outputs by half. In severe models, maize, soy, and wheat grains that sustain might vanish completely from agricultural zones. The delivery fleets that usually come daily to refill grocery stores might never return again. For us, groups must start today to switch from shoppers into growers. And the smartest tactic is decentralized caloric security. Rather than depending on massive monocultures, enable numerous microfarms, domestic vegetable patches, vertical systems, and lots constructed where grass once grew idle. National logistics breakdown is mitigated when every street generates caloric supplements. Low-temperature gardening will become mandatory. And varieties like turnips, charred spinach, carrots, and rye can withstand summers and dim light. Polytunnels, insulated and supplemented with LEDs where viable, can save delicate vitamins. Now neighborhoods that dedicate time now to these methods will not struggle to master them during a famine. However, vegetables alone cannot support a community under years of strain, so fats and proteins are acquired. Yet cattle farming has massive grain requirements that may become impossible, and so we use high-efficiency creatures. Quail and rabbits become tactical resources, compact, silent, simple to nourish, and fast to breed. Now these are the protein sources of the apocalypse. And preservation techniques must be resurrected too, curing pickling, dehydrating, clamping. In a frigid environment, the ground becomes a reliable refrigerator. Root cellars and buried caches can stretch shelf stability without requiring a grid, a reversion to techniques as ancient as history itself. Finally, a regional nutrition strategy must incorporate a resource-sharing agreement, as starvation fuels panic and violence. Public allocation guidelines visible, equitable, and pre-negotiated stop that social fracture. Readiness is not just stock. It is civil order in a timeline where every bite matters. A tribe that can plant and preserve and distribute meals does more than persist. It defends tranquility. The route ahead is clear. Start planting immediately while the weather allows it. Every crop sown now is an investment in safety later on. When the atmosphere cools, thermal energy becomes the boundary between living and dying. In a cooling event, lower luminosity means freezing conditions, not just in the wild, but inside residences, academies, and clinics now. As the network crumbles under diesel shortages, physical damage, or digital warfare, households that trusted will encounter hypothermia as an immediate enemy. Warmth is not a biological necessity. Across the developed world, residential heating relies on extended and brittle infrastructure, methane piped across entire continents, voltage moving through massive cables that can be severed by storms or sabotage without perpetual repairs. Grids grade instantly. Even a temporary outage can cause fatal results. Specifically for seniors, the infirm, and infants. To plan for permanent blackouts, towns must utilize low-tech distributed warmth biomass burners, thermal tents, and communal heat hubs can save thousands when the main grid dies. Ha ha ha. Cast iron stove sealed fireplaces are particularly prized, not just for temperature, but for boiling when induction and gas ranges fail now. However, combustion needs fodder in northern zones, and the need for timber could spike past regenerative limits quickly. That is why retention might matter even more than generation. Basic moves: blocking gaps, hanging heavy tapestries, stacking rugs, and gathering families into one hyper-insulated zone can save metabolic heat and slash wood. Power is not merely warmth. It represents data illumination and the capacity to run vital clinical tools in a nuclear winter. Island grids and on-site voltage creation become mandatory. Photovoltaic cells will be less efficient under gray clouds, yet remain functional. With chemical batteries and compact wind generators, and kinetic systems like dynamos, radios guarantee that groups keep situational awareness. Even if the national network dies, the threat, solitude, darkness, and quiet, extending week after week, can destroy minds faster than malnutrition. Power strategies prioritize light. Against the void lamps, beeswax candles, charging stations, and small signals that tell survivors they are connected. Warming halls, centralized wood reserves, and neighborhood patrol teams help avoid the most grim result of freezing. In isolation, no family should be forgotten. No resident should face the blackness invisible in a chill. Wattage becomes the pulse of survival. Every amp conserved, every coal saved is a stride toward dawn. Because when the planet freezes, living is not just staying hot. Staying united. Fire keeps bodies going, yet without potable liquid and hygiene, biology itself becomes brittle. In a blocked timeline, civic health may encounter its biggest enemy, not from fallout or hunger, but from microbes. Sanitation, plants, and drainage networks depend on consistent voltage. When currents stop, impellers die. Screening fails and bacteria migrate. Its pristine faucets can turn toxics in a day. And when the thermometer dips, conduits fracture, drowning. Basements before freezing, solid and useless. And retrieving liquid becomes both a tactical and physical struggle. Survival towns must therefore shift from trusting a centralized utility to diverse, protected water spots, aquifers, manual levers, cisterns, rain barrels, and communal filtering stations, bleach tablets, ceramic filters, sterilization guides, and regular testing needs become daily habits, not crisis reactions. Every drop matters. Waste disposal presents an even critical danger. Trash collection stops when engines have no fuel or systems fail. In crowded zones, a contagion travels instantly. The most common ailment, norovirus, dirty scrape, or infected tooth may become lethal when pharmacies close. Dogs are bare and clinics are shuttered. That is why neighborhood sanitation becomes a shared duty. Marked refuse sites, sawdust toilets, waste cycling protocols, and rigid laws on dumping stop pathogens from establishing a beachhead. Knowledge is as crucial as hardware. Every citizen must understand how to purify fluids, manage excrement, and clean even without running showers. Clinical attention changes focus to trauma care. Once a hobby becomes as vital as canning, every block requires drilled medics able to stitch cuts, stop hemorrhaging, treat frostbite and fevers. Ashes of respirators, latex gloves, alcohol, and basic antibiotics become the new civic defense. Dialogue between homes. Dialogue is mandatory. People must announce sickness soon, not conceal it. Shame is fatal. Honesty protects everyone. An alert group stops a curable infection from becoming a plague. In this dark future, existence is not just avoiding missiles. It is the aggressive war against microscopic killers, cholera, sepsis, and dysentery, by turning hygiene and wellness into a joint operation. Neighborhoods shield the frailest and stop secondary disasters, more destructive than the ice itself. Even in the gloom, self-respect must endure. A nuclear winter does not just obscure the sky, it challenges the fire inside us. When the known reality breaks, guidance becomes the most precious asset any group holds. Not imposed power, but validated loyalty. Now, in the initial weeks of struggle and friction will happen, some will wish to flee. Others will demand to entrench. Assets may be spread unfairly, and anxiety may build silent walls between friends who once waved casually. To stop fragmentation, each zone must build a steering committee. Persons selected not for riches or rank, but for consistency, level-headedness, and dedication to the tribe. And their role is not ruling, it is synchronizing. This is they manage radio, arrange housing aid, and maintain peace without violence. Bylaws must be set soon, publicly and justly. Precision avoids feuds and neighborhood manual. Concise, printed, circulated guarantees that choices are visible and faith is kept. Psychological stability needs equal focus. Perpetual twilight. Pressure and ambiguity erode even the most resilient clans. Routine wellness checks, communal dining, group labor, and brief assemblies save. The mental tapestry that desire tries to tear shield the psyche when the exterior feels and deadly. Protection also becomes mutual, rather than families locking themselves away in terror. Streets start sentry shifts, warning codes, and safety escorts. The objective is not becoming an army, it is comfort. When threats arrive, they are met collectively, not individually. Finally, the climate. Era following the cold will be different, but it will remain a world. And those who persist are those who prepare not only to survive misery, but to save their society. Resilience is not calculated by who endures the iciest storm, but by who possesses the energy to construct on the first. Thawing morning readiness is not defeatism, it is guardianship. It guarantees that when tragedy tests our species, we respond with bravery, unity, and belief. If this resonates, like and join winds of thought. This is the actual goal of enduring the dark. Not just to save a heartbeat, but to protect the future that follows, ensuring that humanity survives the long night and sees the sun rise again.